Trust begins to die the moment someone pressures you to compromise who you are. If a person asks you to lie, cheat, or cover for them, what they are really asking is for you to sacrifice your integrity for their convenience. It's never about one small favor, it's a test. And the moment you bend, you've told them you're willing to trade your truth for their The most dangerous favor anyone can ask of you is one that requires you to betray your own values. It often doesn't come dressed in something obvious. It usually shows up disguised as a small thing. Just cover for me this once. Don't say anything, it's no big deal. Can't you just look the other way? At first it feels harmless. You tell yourself it's just one time, or you convince yourself it's loyalty, but what's really happening is far deeper than the act itself. It's a test of whether your integrity has a price. The truth is, when someone asks you to step outside of your values for their comfort, they are not just asking for a favor, they are asking for ownership over your character. And the moment you say yes, you've silently told them that your truth can be bent, reshaped, or even silenced if the right person pressures you. Think about it. Your values are not just nice words. They are the foundation of your life. They tell you who you are, what you stand for, and what lines you will never cross. The moment you trade those values for the approval of someone else, you are no longer living your life. You are living theirs. And here's the painful part. People who ask you to betray yourself once will never stop at once because they've discovered your weak point. Each time they come back, the ask grows heavier, the compromise becomes deeper, and the cost to your soul becomes greater. What started as a favor becomes a chain. Real trust, real connection, real love, none of it should ever require you to step outside of who you are. Anyone who truly values you will want to see you rooted in truth, not bending in shame. They will never ask you to compromise your integrity for their benefit because they know your strength is what makes you safe to love. So the next time someone asks you to do something that violates your values, stop and listen to the tension in your chest, the knot in your stomach, that whisper inside that says, "This is not me." That's your soul reminding you that loyalty without integrity is not loyalty at all. It's bondage. Protect your values like they are your breath, because in many ways they are. Once you give them away, it's hard to breathe freely again. One of the most deceptive favors people will ever ask of you is silence. They will look you in the eye and say, "Don't tell anyone. Just let this go. It's between us." At first, it may sound like trust. It may even feel like intimacy, that they are sharing something with you in confidence. But if what they are asking you to stay silent about involves harm, betrayal, or wrongdoing, then it's not trust they are asking for, it's complicity. Think about this carefully. Trust is never about protecting wrongdoing. Trust is about truth. If someone asks you to hold their secret at the expense of justice, healing, or honesty, they are not asking you for loyalty. They are asking you to protect their image while you carry the weight of their actions. Silence in this form becomes a heavy chain. You carry their guilt in your chest, you replay their actions in your mind, and yet you are forbidden to speak. The longer you stay quiet, the heavier it becomes. And over time, silence doesn't just protect them, it erodes you. When you agree to silence in the face of wrongdoing, you slowly start to betray yourself. You begin to question your own voice. Do I have the right to speak? Am I overreacting? Maybe I should just let it go. This is how manipulation works. Wrongdoers convince you that speaking up makes you disloyal, but the truth is that silence is what makes you a prisoner. Let me tell you this, real love, real trust, and real friendship will never ask you to deny your truth. They will never demand your silence when your heart is screaming for justice. Anyone who truly respects you, kind of person who always seems to be reaching into your life with open hands. They ask to borrow your money, your time, your energy, and sometimes even your dreams. And here's the thing, it's not the asking that is the problem. We've all needed help. We've all leaned on someone in times of struggle. The danger comes when a person borrows with no intention of honoring the trust that comes with it. When you lend to someone, you are not just giving them a thing, you are extending your trust. You are saying, I believe you will respect what I've placed in your hands. But when that trust is taken lightly, when what you've given is treated as disposable or forgotten, it's not just the object that is lost, it's the relationship itself that begins to erode. Pay attention to patterns. Some people are not really borrowing, they are taking. They've learned how to cloak entitlement in the language of need. They'll say, you're the only one I can count on, or it's just this one time. But notice how one time becomes every time. Notice how the emergency never seems to end. The truth is they are not looking for partnership. They are looking for a reservoir. And the reservoir is you. Your kindness becomes their bank account. Your time becomes their calendar. Your boundaries become optional. And here's the part we often overlook. Every act of lending changes the balance of power in a relationship. When lending is mutual, when both sides give and return, power is shared, respect grows, and connection deepens. But when one side always gives and the other always takes, imbalance grows. The borrower stops seeing your generosity as a gift and starts seeing it as an obligation. What used to be gratitude turns into expectation, and expectation turns into entitlement. That is how trust dies, not in one grand betrayal, but in the slow erosion of respect. So when someone asks you to lend what they never plan to return, what they are really asking is this: will you let me take without honoring you? Will you allow me to treat your sacrifice as my right? And your answer matters, because every time you say yes, you are teaching them how to treat you. Generosity is beautiful, compassion is sacred, but generosity without boundaries becomes exploitation, and compassion without accountability becomes abuse. You are not selfish for saying no. You are wise for recognizing that your resources, your time, your money, your heart are precious, and not everyone deserves access to them. So remember this: lending is not about what leaves your hand, it's about what stays in your heart. If the act leaves you feeling used, unseen, or diminished, then it wasn't lending, it was taking. And people who take without honoring are not asking for help, they are asking for control. Protect your trust, protect your resources, and above all, protect your heart from those who see your kindness as an endless well rather than a sacred gift. One of the most subtle yet destructive favors people will ask of you is this: to choose them over yourself. They may not use those exact words, but the request is hidden in their expectations. It sounds like, cancel your plans and come through for me. You'll do it if you really care about me. You always put yourself first. It's a tactic that disguises itself as loyalty, but in reality, it's exploitation. Here's the truth. Love, respect, and friendship never require you to abandon yourself. Any relationship that demands you sacrifice your peace, your dreams, or your well-being to prove your devotion is not a relationship. It's a transaction where you lose and they win. Think about what it feels like when someone puts you in that position. You wrestle with guilt. You wonder, am I being selfish? Am I letting them down? Slowly, you start to learn that the only way to keep their love or approval is to put yourself last. And before you know it, you begin to disappear. At first, it may look like small sacrifices, skipping rest to help them, ignoring your own needs to meet theirs. But over time, these small choices create a life where you no longer recognize yourself. Your identity becomes tied to how much you can give, how much you can lose, how much of yourself you're willing to erase for them. And let me tell you something, anyone who truly values you would never want that for you, because real love celebrates your wholeness, not your emptiness. Real love wants to see you full, not drained. Real love cheers when you choose yourself, because your strength, your health, your joy make you capable of deeper, truer connection. But people who ask you to choose them over yourself are not after love. They are after control. They measure your loyalty by your willingness to abandon your own needs. They frame sacrifice as proof of devotion, but the devotion is always one-sided. They do not lose when you give, they gain. And every time you choose them instead of you, the scales tip further until the balance of the relationship is gone. Here's the danger. Once you make a pattern of putting them first, they come to expect it. What was once a request becomes a demand. What was once occasional becomes constant. And suddenly you realize you are living a life where your needs are invisible, your dreams are postponed, and your soul is quietly suffocating. So listen to me. Choosing yourself is not selfishness. It is stewardship. It is saying, I matter too. My peace matters. My body matters. My mind matters. My future matters. Anyone who cannot celebrate that truth does not deserve access to your deep, sent love. When someone asks you to choose them over yourself, you have to pause and ask, why do they need me small in order to feel big? Why do they need me empty in order to feel full? Because love doesn't require you to shrink. Love doesn't demand you to break. Love invites you to stand tall together. So the next time someone asks you to abandon yourself to prove you care for them, remember this: true care never costs you your soul. And if the price of their favor is your wholeness, then that's not a favor, it's theft. Protect yourself, value yourself, and never trust those who confuse your sacrifice with love. One of the most dangerous requests you will ever hear is this: don't tell anyone. It sounds simple, it sounds harmless. But listen carefully. Sometimes that request is not about trust, it's about manipulation. When someone asks you to hide the truth from others, they are not asking for your loyalty. They are asking you to become the guardian of their illusion. They want you to protect their reputation, even if it costs you your peace. They want you to carry their secrets, even when those secrets weigh like stones on your heart. Here's the problem with that. The moment you agree, you step into a role you were never meant to play. You become the shield between who they are and how the world sees them. And instead of being free to live in honesty, you are now trapped in a web of secrecy. This is how it begins. Just don't tell them I was here. Don't say what you saw. Cover for me. It'll make things easier. Each time you agree, you think you're keeping peace, but what you're really doing is protecting a mask. And the danger is, once you protect that mask, you become responsible for maintaining it. You become the one who has to remember the lies, hide the evidence, and defend the story. What began as a favor becomes a lifetime of carrying someone else's shadow. The truth is heavy, but lies are heavier. Carrying truth might cost you relationships, but carrying lies will cost you yourself. Because every time you hide the truth for someone else, a part of your own truth goes quiet. Your voice weakens, your confidence shrinks. You start living with a knot in your chest because deep down you know you're betraying what is real. And here's the hardest part. When you agree to hide someone else's truth, you also agree to take on their consequences. If the truth comes out, and it always does, you will be dragged into their storm. And the very person who asked you to keep silent will be the first to abandon you. Because the mask was never about the relationship. It was about their protection. Remember this: trust is never built on lies. A relationship that requires deception to survive is not a relationship, it's an illusion. If someone cannot stand in the truth of who they are, then they are not ready for genuine connection. And if they ask you to guard their mask, what they are really saying is, I value my image more than I value your peace. You deserve better than that. You deserve people who can stand in truth without dragging you into secrecy. You deserve relationships where honesty is safe, where integrity is celebrated, and where trust is built on what is real, not what is hidden. So the next time someone asks you to hide the truth, pause. Ask yourself, am I protecting this person or am I protecting their mask? Am I guarding a life or am I guarding a lie? If the answer is the latter, then know this: it's not a favor, it's a trap. And you cannot live free while carrying someone else's disguise. There is a kind of favor that seems innocent at first, but is actually one of the most destructive. When someone asks you to dim your light so that they can feel brighter, they won't always say it directly. It often comes out in saucy little comments. Don't show off. Tone it down. You're making everyone uncomfortable. You think you're better than us now, don't you? At first, you might laugh it off. You tell yourself, maybe they're right. Maybe I should hold back. But here's the truth. Anyone who feels threatened by your growth will always try to shrink you because your light exposes the shadows they haven't dealt with in themselves. This is not about humility. This is about insecurity. Humility is knowing your light and still choosing to walk with kindness. Insecurity is asking someone else to hide their light because you refuse to find your own. Think about how it feels when you're told to dim yourself. You sit in a room with people you love, and instead of celebrating your accomplishments, they roll their eyes. Instead of clapping for your progress, they stay silent. Instead of saying, I'm proud of you, they say, don't forget where you came from. Slowly, you learn that being yourself fully, unapologetically comes with punishment. And so you begin to shrink. You stop sharing your wins. You silence your dreams. You dim your light, not because you want to, but because you want to keep the peace. But here's the danger. When you diminish yourself for the comfort of others, you don't just lose your light, you lose your identity. You start to believe that you are too much, too ambitious, too loud, too passionate, too bright. And over time, you forget that your light was never a threat. It was a gift. The truth is, your light was never meant to make others feel small. Your light was meant to inspire them to rise. If they choose to see your brightness as an insult instead of an invitation, that's not your burden to carry. That's their shadow to confront. People who love you will never ask you to dim. They will stand in your light and feel joy, not jealousy. They will clap when you win because your win does not mean their loss. They will remind you that your brightness makes the world better, not worse. So when someone asks you to diminish your light so they can shine, recognize it for what it is: fear. Fear of being unseen, fear of being left behind, fear of facing the truth about themselves. But do not make the mistake of carrying their fear as your responsibility. You were not born to live small. You were not given